doing? It is Andrew Hawks here. Of course, you can call me Doc Drew, and I'm probably going to struggle just a little bit this morning because right before I started this live stream, I got the hiccups. But of course, we had it timed, so we have to go, right? That's the way it is. You just adapt. Anyway, guys, as I said, Andrew Hawks. You can call me Doc Drew. You can follow me over at Instagram at Andrew Hawks Online, or you could also follow me at TikTok at Andrew Hawks Online, even at YouTube at Andrew Hawks Online. Today we're going to continue our discussion around crypto. I'm going to continue to drink this decaf coffee because it's very, very nice. And we're just going to talk about a few things that pop up, I guess. Yes, I've got a couple of notes, and we'll talk around the very thing that I believe sets people up for their own individual wealth journey. Anything that I say is based on my own advice, on my own experience, my own opinion. It's through things that have happened to me throughout the years, and based on that, of course. Now, everything that I say should be considered as education, entertainment, whatever you want to call it, but it's definitely not financial advice. Okay, you should absolutely go and seek advice from a professional before looking into any of these things to make sure that they are right for you and your circumstances, because everybody's circumstances are different. So let's be straight up about that. So today we're actually going to be talking about Web3. What does it mean? What does it look like? What actually is Web3? I mean, what does it entail? We've spoken about this before in the past. Web3 is essentially a decentralized internet. Let's be honest. It's where you are in control of all of your details. It's where you are in control of your identity. Okay. I thought it already was that, so that's fine. So we're good. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right. If not, we're going to have some people telling me pretty soon on Facebook saying you can't hear me, but let's just assume that you can. So there's a couple of things that we'll talk about today. It is a big one. I think it is the core, it's the crux of what drives the DeFi space, the decentralized space, the decentralized finance space specifically. For those of you joining us on TikTok, hope you're well. Just come and tap that screen, let us know you're here, let us know you can hear me. And I will just continue to carry on drinking coffee and just talking about Web3. So it's a big one for me, not because it's technical. I mean, yes, there's tech involved in it. There's nuances that you need to learn. There's subtleties that if you get on the wrong side of, then it can trip you up. But for me, it's personal. Because for the longest time, I've always asked the question, when I say the longest time, I certainly didn't ask the question when I was in the military. I was very idealistic. I joined the military straight out of school, and I did my duty. And I did my duty to the best of my ability. I did 5 tours of duty peacekeeping overseas. I came back home and realised that I couldn't have the lifestyle that I wanted if I was staying in the military. In fact, the reason I left the military is because I couldn't do the trade that I wanted to do. I kind of hamstrung myself a little bit, and you can read about that in the Motivation Myth when that comes out a little bit later this year. But the fact is, after I got out, I started questioning. I was like, well, hold on, why are there different tax brackets? Why is there, because you earn more, you've got to give more back? Well, just by default, if you're earning more, you're already giving more back if you're paying tax on that, because you're earning more of it, so you can give more back. And you might go percentage-wise. People go, "Oh, billionaires don't pay any tax." Well, yeah, they do, and percentage-wise, they might only pay a small percentage. But if you look at how much they're actually paying, they're probably paying a shitload more than the average person. So, but I started to look at that, and I was like, well, hold on. How is it, particularly in New Zealand and Australia, how is it that I have to work essentially for 5 to 6 months of the year before I'm starting to earn my own money? Because up until that point, everything else is going to the government. Everything else is going to service amenities. But are they really? I mean, the statistics in the States are alarming. That the tax doesn't even pay the interest on the debt of the finance they've borrowed, the money they've borrowed. So anyway, back to the point. It's personal because I'm like, well, okay. Hey, Andrew, how you doing, man? It's good to, yeah, thanks for that, bro. I appreciate it. Andrew on Facebook's just told me that that my sound's good. So anyway, good. I know it'll be fine on TikTok because you guys aren't going through the same mic. It's different. But it got personal for me because it's like, well, why are people working so hard to give so much back to a government that's not necessarily using that money so well? And Kerry Packer said it beautifully years and years ago for Australia. He got hauled up, and I think I've already said this before, but he got hauled up in front of the select committee or whatever it was in Australia for tax avoidance. And he said, I'm not avoiding tax, I'm just utilising the system that you provided for me. And he said, and you'd be a fool if you didn't, because I wouldn't want to donate more to you guys because you're not doing that good a job with what you already get. And that's probably still true today. But anyway, I started looking, going, well, okay, what are the alternates? And look, don't get me wrong, I think it has a place if the money's utilised well. If the money's utilised well, I think it absolutely has a place. But right now, I don't believe that it is for any nation, not just, not any one nation specifically. Struggling this morning. It's not any one nation specifically. None of them are using them very well. I mean, there's a lot of problems in their own backyard before they start donating funds overseas. And when they're donating funds, when the government donates funds, it's not donating their funds, it's donating your funds, it's donating your taxpayer money. So they're not doing that good a job of it that you'd want to donate more of it. So that's kind of why I look at it. Web3 provides you an access to vehicles where you remain in control, where you get to be the sovereign, for lack of a better word, of your own wealth, of your own destiny. Now, it's not all patriotic fireworks. I'm talking about the freedom that most people think they have until something hits. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so you're in the centralized system, you've got plenty of money in the bank, you need it for something, it's a personal matter, nothing illegal, but you need to go get some money and the bank says, oh, no, you can't have it until you let us know what it's for. Now, as I said, it's a personal matter. It might be that you're having an operation to alter something, who knows, right? I'm not here to judge. You should have the freedom, the choice of whatever you want to do with your funds, with your identity, the way you see fit, so long as it's not a crime, it's not hurting anyone else, it's not causing damage to anyone else. And if we look at that, if we go right back biblically, you know, if before man's laws were made, and man's laws were made by man. So if we look at the hierarchical thing, if we're into, and I'm not saying about religion, but if we're talking about a higher entity, there's God's law, there's man's law, right? And we're not man, there's God, there's man, there's man's law. God, man, man's law, right? So man's law is below men, or women, however you want to put that. But Web3 provides you the access to put that wrong right to a point. But again, it doesn't, people don't understand that they're not free until it hits, until the bank freezes their funds, until your platform deletes you, you know, for speaking out and saying the truth, your truth. Now people go, oh, there's only one truth. Well, yes and no. There's always three sides to a story. There's your side, their side, and somewhere in the middle, that grey area is probably the truth of that. So again, don't take what I'm saying as gospel. Go out and research for yourself. Everything's there. Everything's there for you to see. And guys, if you are just joining us, head over to drewsdaily.com. You can grab the Sovereign Wealth Kit there. You can grab the DeFi checklist. There's even a WhatsApp link where you can WhatsApp me. We can have a chat. I would absolutely love to talk to you. But you can find out more about me, who I am, what I do, who I help, right over there at drewsdaily.com. So we think we've got freedom until something comes up, until we try to get that money out, until we get silenced for or censored for saying something that we believe in that doesn't fit the narrative. And we've seen a lot of that over the last 5 years, particularly 2020, 2021, 2022. A lot of people lost their voice, lost their platform. And it doesn't matter who it was. What matters is that it happened, because your freedom of speech right is protected. You have, in most countries, there's some countries that it's not, and you know, we don't need to talk about those, but most of the Western civilization have freedom of speech, meaning you can say what you want within reason. You can't defame someone, that's just silly. But you can express your opinions or thoughts about something without any retribution, without anyone saying, oh, you can't say that. That is how we've built society. Now, they always say that history is written by the victor, and that's true. And history is if you break it up, is his story, right? So history is written by the victor. So can we trust it? I don't know. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. But my point is, we should be able to say what we believe. We should be able to voice our opinions. And we certainly have seen a lot of things over the last 3, 4, 5 years that counter that argument. So Web3 allows you to have more freedom in that space. Not anonymity necessarily, although there is anonymity in there as well, but it means that you get to control your identity rather than somebody else. So if we look at, if the government tells you where you can move to, what areas, and there's talk about 15-minute cities, and people go, well, what's this got to do with Web3 and decentralized finance? Well, they all tie in together, I believe. But you've heard probably talk about 15-minute cities. So the government will be able to control where you go. Oh, no, you can't go into that area. Oh, you've used too much of your carbon credits this week. No, you can't buy any steak either. Because you'll only be allowed a certain amount of carbon credits each and every week, which is, when you break it down, it's just totally illogical. But anyway, they've convinced enough people to think that that's a smart move. But if you need their permission to move, to earn, to speak, to exist, that's not freedom. That's compliance dressed up as choice. But that is exactly why Web3 matters. That's exactly why the decentralized space will continue to evolve and flourish. And who knows, maybe in the not too distant future, there's an intersection where the two meet, where the decentralized space takes on some regulation to make it safer for people. And yeah, that is absolutely a thing, because it's not without its risk. But then again, getting up and walking across the road is not without its risk either. Getting up and going for a walk in Japan this morning was not without its risk. It's hot out there. It is hot. It's muggy as all hell. And I'll be honest, by the time I got back, I was like, oh, I'm a little bit lightheaded. You know, but there's risk in anything that we do. There's also risk in doing nothing. So, you know. So guys, if you are just joining us, head over to drewsdaily.com. There's the Sovereign Wealth Kit you can download. There is the DeFi Wealth Checklist, the DeFi Checklist. So grab either of those depending on which page you land on. If you've landed on one or the other and you want the other, if you want both, just message through WhatsApp and I'll get that through to you as well. Somebody did that yesterday and I managed to get it through to them. So just have a look at that. But we were born into a rigged game right from the start, right out of the gate. The system wasn't designed to support us. The system was designed to support a few people who know how to manipulate and control and draw the strings, right? And if we go right back years and years and years, probably 100 years ago, maybe not quite 100 years ago, would have been close. Was it the Rockefellers got, when Standard Oil was the biggest conglomerate in the world, got hit with an antitrust lawsuit. And basically that meant that there was no trust within it. They were manipulating or controlling the market. They were a monopoly. Ironically, the decision from that was that he had to separate Standard Oil. Rockefeller had to separate Standard Oil into all its different companies that you see today, Shell, Mobil, all of the different oil companies were all once part of Standard Oil. Now that was all separated. Ironically, that actually made Rockefeller more money because now he could play them one off against the other. My point in all of this is that Rockefeller had so much money, and we still see this today, that he had so much money that he could lobby. He had lobbyists, he had bureaucrats on his payroll that would go and whisper in the ears of politicians and would sway policy to go their way, to favor them. Web3 takes that away a little bit because it brings the power back to the users, back to us, back to the people. So we can sit and vote on the different things that help us or that we believe in. And we can do this in a couple of different mechanisms. And if you haven't caught the episodes on DAOs and things, go back and see some of the past episodes that I've done, because I talk about DAOs and how we can actually do that. So we were born into a rigged system. You weren't given a real choice. It was the illusion of choice. It's like voting. If voting made any difference at all, it would be illegal. So I believe, and it's my opinion, my thoughts, and again, everything I say is for education purposes and shouldn't be considered as any form of financial advice. But I believe that we've given that illusion of choice, and that the outcome of any said election is decided before any votes cast. And I've got a good friend, in fact, we did a hot seat together a couple of weeks ago, who is astounded. There's an election in Australia not so long ago where you could literally go in, the ballots could be written, hey, in pencil. Well, that's very, very easy to manipulate and change, in it. You might go, oh yeah, but nobody's going to go and change 2 million votes by pencil. Really? Aren't they? If you break it down into the smaller areas, it's not 2 million votes, is it? There might be 1,000 votes here, 1,000 votes there, and you've all got different polling areas. So absolutely they could be changed. Whereas if it was done on blockchain, if it was done on Web3, it would be immutable. No one could argue with that because everything's timestamped, providing it is truly decentralized. So from the moment you got a bank account, from the moment you got a social security ID or an ID number, an IRS number, whatever you want to call it, social security in the States is IRS, not a number. So anyway, whatever it is, you were handed chains with logos on them. you basically, but it happened before that too. It goes way back to when we were actually born, when our parents signed our birth certificate. That was when we were first sold into servitude, if you like. But if you are running a controversial business, or if you try, and again, we've spoken about this, about speaking out about what you think, or something that doesn't quite fit the boundaries, saying something true that goes against the script, then you could get shut down, you could get locked out. And I remember I've got friends and colleagues in Queensland who have a farm now, and they were ahead of the curve years and years and years ago, where they started farming Wagyu, and the bank told them it was too risky, and the bank basically shut them down. They go, oh, no, basically forced them out of their land, and what do you know? The bank and its cronies essentially ended up acquiring that land and started farming it themselves. So, you know, obviously I've very much paraphrased that story, but the long and the short of it is they were doing something that was new, it was innovative, and it was going to be very, very successful. And the bank went, not on our watch, not on our land, because you don't own your land, we do, the bank. And they said, all right, no, providing you can pay this money by then you know, you'll be able to keep. They lost their farm, they lost their livelihood, and what do you know, as I said, the bank's companies then started picking that up and farming it, because it was going to hurt their investors' interests if they didn't do it. So it's an interesting world. It's an interesting world. So try not paying tax and see where you get. And again, I've said this before. If you look at the definition, not financial advice at all, by the way, but this is just my opinion, guys. But if you look at the literal definition of bullying or violence or theft, the literal definition of theft is by taking something by either force or threat of violence. Now, if you look at your tax, if you say, oh, if you start looking and saying, I'm not going to pay more tax, you're going to get notices through saying, if you don't pay this, you could go to prison for blah, 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 blah. Well, is that not coercion? Is that not bullying? Is that not a threat? Of course it is. So by definition, it is. That's not the point of this today, but try paying that and just see, try not paying it and just see how free you are. Try moving your money during a lockdown. Ask the people in Cyprus how they felt years ago when around 2008, 2009, when there was a bank run in Cyprus. They couldn't get their money out. They were stuck. Now, have a look at all of that and tell me that you're not controlled in some way. That there isn't some force behind the scenes dictating what your next move will be for you. Now, Web3 is not perfect. Far from it. But it's an option right now. It's a crowbar in the lock. It helps give you a glimpse of what's potentially possible outside of what you traditionally know right now. It's an exit ramp. It's a way for you to regain your individual sovereignty, your financial sovereignty. It's a way for you to be in control of your decisions, of your destiny. So what is it? If it's all of these things that I've just said, what actually is it? Well, it's not just crypto. And most people get that mixed up. Most people think, oh, Web3, it's crypto. No, and the reason people think that is because there's not yet enough information out there about it that's gone mainstream. And when I say there's not yet enough information, there's information there if you want to look for it, if you want to search for it. But it hasn't yet gone mainstream, so people aren't looking to see what that looks like because they're all comfortable. They're comfortable on their Web2 platforms like TikTok, like Facebook, like YouTube, like Instagram, whatever. They're all Web2. And it's not just about NFTs and cartoon monkeys. And we've spoken about NFTs before as well. We've spoken about tokens, tokenomics. Web3 is essentially a rebuild of the internet with ownership baked in. So it's a rebuild. We're looking at the internet. We've been using the internet for 25 plus years, maybe a little longer, 27, 28. Maybe some of the earlier geeks are even older than that. Fine, cool. I'm still old enough to remember the days of dial-up, where it was slow as all hell. And Web 2 wouldn't have worked on dial-up. It needed faster speeds. Only Web 1 would have, which was read. Basically, you could read articles. You could send emails. That's about what you could do on Web 1. You could send very, very poorly, low quality video through an email that would take hours and hours and hours and hours to download. And there were streaming services started early in that time, and it would take you 24 hours to download one song. They weren't even streaming services, they were pirate services, let's be honest. So Web3 is a rebuild of the internet with ownership baked in for you. You get to control your entity, your identity. You get to control your output, your input, all of those things. You don't just use the product. In Web 2, you don't just use the product, you are the product. And we've spoken about this before too. If you are using the product free, you're the product. We get free access to TikTok. We get free access to YouTube. We get free access to Facebook. They monetize. Hey, Stilo, how you doing, brother? They monetize that content. Billions of dollars a year in ad revenue is generated. Because you run the content. And look, to be fair, Facebook and YouTube and even TikTok, any platform that you can do this on, you are able to monetize it. You're able to earn from it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you own it. You're getting a small slither of what the big companies get. And look, no problem with that. That's business. That's what they do. That's fine. I get that. But you are the product in Web 2. Your data, the things that you do, your habits, your spending habits, your scrolling habits. Have you ever noticed, you might be talking around your phone or talking with someone, in fact, that the joke is, right, that if you know what you want for your birthday or for Christmas, go and say it near your spouse's phone. Just go and talk about it right next to the phone. Some people pick it up and just literally just say the name over and over and over and over again, because all of a sudden they start getting ads run for that specific product. Now, that's not by mistake, that's by design. People go, oh, but your phones aren't listening to you. I assure you they are. I assure you they are. If they've got a microphone attachment that you can turn on or off, they are 100% listening to you. They're probably listening to this conversation right now. Cool. But here's the thing. That makes you the product. That makes you a commodity. In Web 3, that doesn't happen because your data is anonymous. You own it. You are in control of where it goes, what it does. Now, that could be in the form of an NFT. It could be in the form of something else. So Web 3 flips it 100%. You own the data. You own your access. You own your outcomes. And that's important for a lot of people. So Web 3 is literally read, write, and own. Web 1 is read. Web 2 is read and write. Web 3, read, write, and own. That was an accident. Sorry, team. Anyway, but read, write, and own. And it's not hype. It's just digital sovereignty. Digital sovereignty. You own your identity. That's important. Important to understand. Important to remember. So during the years from 2020 through to 2023, there was a lot of stuff going on in the world. And I shared a little bit about a specific leader yesterday who, after they got out of power, their bank account looked a lot healthier. Now, they did a lot of damage, in my opinion, did a lot of damage to their country by the lockdowns, by the censorship. And that means that it caused people to look for other alternatives. YouTube was banning anyone that said anything other than the narrative. So platforms like Rumble really started to emerge, like BitChute, because they weren't censored. So myself, along with a good friend who's actually watching this right now, we started a podcast at the time called Under the Rug, where we were talking about the things literally that you couldn't talk about. But we tried doing that on YouTube and not allowed to say it, not allowed to do it. So we can see plenty of examples. Anyone that spoke out about what was going on quickly got shut down. In fact, there was a couple of presidents in African countries who were very vocal about what was going on and how it was wrong, and didn't believe, went against the official narrative, let's say, and they ended up dead, mysteriously. So, there's definitely a power that's there. Hey guys, if you are just joining me, head over to drewsdaily.com, grab yourself the Sovereign Wealth Kit and the DeFi checklist. There is a WhatsApp number there that we can chat, and I would love to talk to you for sure. So just head over there. If you want to know more about me, who I am, what I do, who I help, then you can find that out over at drewsdaily.com. Again, anything that I'm saying through here is just through my experience. It's my opinion. It shouldn't be constituted as financial advice at all, because it's not. I'm talking about general things in nature. I'm not talking about any specific products, just talking about the space. So just important to keep reiterating that, because I'd hate for anyone to get the wrong idea. So we can already see that creators through the Web3 space are starting to earn through tokenized communities with zero middleman. It's already starting to happen. Journalists in authoritarian regimes, they're using decentralized storage to publish truth. We saw a lot of, Julian Assange just got released not so long ago, probably might even be a year ago now, after years and years and years being held essentially, under false pretenses, because he had a lot of data, a lot of information about specific organizations that he wouldn't give up. It was in this decentralized space and no one could touch it. So he was able to keep people moving on and hanging on in that space because of it, right? We're really living in a gig economy right now, where entrepreneurs are spinning up opportunities left, right and center. And we're also seeing a lot of people take advantage of that gig economy. I started a partnership last night that will be 100% bankless for content and stuff. So, these things are absolutely possible. It's a win-win situation from peer to peer. It means I don't have to worry about a middleman. And I've spoken about this with, about VAs and stuff. You can pay them through those means. So there's ways and means that you can do things there. But the point of that entrepreneurs are doing that, they can't be frozen out by a strike. And I remember going to an event in 2017 in Los Angeles. And it was a 3-day event, two or 3 day event. And I literally just flew over on the Friday, arrived Friday morning, did Friday at the event, Saturday at the event. Sunday was the last day of the event, and I flew out Sunday night back to Australia, where I was living at the time. It was a very whistle-stop trip. Anyway, the point of that was, it was really the introduction of not just the decentralized space. It was about virtual reality. It was a whole heap of things that were combined into that. It was very good foresight on the guy's part, actually, now that I think about it. But the guise of which was, I learned a lot about how mortgages are created at that point in time, but also there was a lot of talk about frozen funds. Now, if you've been working online long enough, you've probably had some funds frozen at some point in some place. Well, Web3 takes that possibility out right? Unless you've got a token that is programmable, can be frozen, then in all likelihood, you're probably going to be okay, and you're probably still going to be able to get paid. So these are things that you want to be thinking about. DAOs are funding art. We've spoken about that before. They're funding impact and infrastructure voted on by the people. Like if we think about our general election system, our general voting system, how it's set up in most countries right now is that it's up to the people. It's we, the people, are supposed to vote the party into power to do our bidding. They're supposed to work for the people, right? That's how it's supposed to work. In reality, it's not working that way. It's being controlled by third parties, by bad actors, by bad players. Whereas if we're inside of a DAO system that we've spoken about yesterday, it gets voted on, it's immutable, we get to see what it is, and we get to vote on the outcomes. Not some dude in a boardroom. Australia is just, come the 19th of July, will be a part of the World Health Organization treaty, a pandemic treaty, which basically gives the WHO, an unelected body, full control and power over the Australian health system. If there's another pandemic, they get to make the rules. Australia's ceded their sovereignty in that sense. No one will have a leg to stand on. We'll tell you, it makes me not want to live in Australia at all. No, I don't anyway, but there you go. That's a good reason why not to. No one should have that power over you ever, ever. This is getting a little bit heavy. But anyway, Web3 gives you the freedom. Web3 gives you the opportunity to make your own choices. And that's really, really important to me. Now, even the likes of Elon Musk, who understands the importance of Web3, of cryptocurrency, he's looking at putting crypto payments through platforms like X, right? The tide is absolutely turning, and we're at the forefront of that right now, providing that you take action on it. Remember, that window is closing in the DeFi, in the Web3 space. From the centralized to the decentralized, it's getting harder and harder and harder for people to go from one to the other. And again, that's by design. That's because that system is rigged. And luckily for us, the system doesn't move as quick as the early adopters, as the pioneers. It's the pioneers and the early adopters that exploit those spaces, and I don't mean exploit in a bad way. They investigate, they understand, they learn those spaces faster than the system can adapt to it. Because the system's heavy, the system's big, it's lethargic. And it's not to say there's not some smart people in there. Absolutely, there is. But because of the different mechanisms, it takes a lot to get it all moving in one direction. They've got to go through that inertia of going one direction where they are to going to something different. Whereas the early adopters, the pioneers, they're a little bit more nimble and can move on it. So luckily for you, even though that window is closing, if you're at all curious, right now you're able to still do something about it. And again, if you want to find out more about who I am, what I do, who I help, then over at Drew's Daily, there is the Sovereign Wealth Kit that you can get. So drewsdaily.com. And of course, you can get the DeFi checklist as well, just to see where you're at. Give yourself a little bit of an audit. See if it's something that could work for you. Again, not financial advice at all. I'm not talking about anything specifically, but see if it's something that could work for you. And if it is, then investigate it further. Do your own research in it. That's really, really important. Do your own research. So within Web3, you get to reclaim your identity. In Web2, you're pretty scattered. You're all over the place. You've got a login for this, you've got a login for that, you've got a login down here, a login up there. But in Web3, you literally carry your identity with you in the form of an NFT. This is who I am. This is where I go. Or in your wallet, your wallet address. You might have multiple NFTs, that's very true, but they can all be tied to one specific wallet address, and that essentially is where you go. Now, would you still break it up and have different ones? Of course you would. You want to protect yourself, you want to ring fence everything. It's the same as entrepreneurship, and that is that you want to control everything and own nothing. So you want the front-facing wallet that you use for your daily transactions or whatever, that if something happens and you need to move it, you can act quickly and go, I'm moved over to a new wallet that no one knows about. Cool, perfect. And then you'd have another wallet behind that, a cold storage wallet potentially. And we haven't spoken about wallets for a little while, so we might do something on wallets very, very soon. In fact, it's probably coming up tomorrow or the next day. What are we? It's Wednesday, so we've got 2 days left of the week after this, and then I'm going to have a weekend. We're off to somewhere else after this. Actually, we're taking the kids to Disney Sea on the kids. They're man-children. Harlan's 6'3" now. It's huge. And Emerson's getting taller too. But we're taking the Disney Sea on Friday, so we're pretty excited about that. It's going to be cool. It's going to be an early start, so Friday's episode might be a little bit shorter than normal. But I assure you, I will be here. So LinkedIn owns your reputation. We're talking about Web 2, how everything's scattered. LinkedIn owns your reputation. Facebook owns your memories. I had a friend a couple of weeks ago. He's had a Facebook profile for decades, when did Facebook start? In 2014, so over a decade. His account might not have been that old, the specific one that we're talking about, but he had a lot of memories in it, and he'd done a lot of work in it. And one day, without any notice and without any recourse, it's like, hey, your account's been shut down. Ba-boom. No, this is what you've done wrong. It's very ambiguous. You've got to try and guess, but there was no chance of reinstatement. That was devastating for him. It was devastating for him. He literally thought that his life was done, essentially. Because, let's face it, for a lot of people, it's their connection. Long story short, he managed to get it back, but it took weeks and weeks and weeks of lobbying. So, Instagram owns your network, Facebook owns your memories. Web3, you carry your identity, as I say. Your access, your proof of work, your achievements, everything, wherever you go. And it's all stored beautifully on a nice little NFT for you if you choose to put it that way. It's not a pipe dream, it's already live. It's already happening. It's already here. There's, soulbound tokens. And I know there's people on this call probably listening to this live that have experience with those, where there's a lot. Obviously, if you have to KYC for something, if you have to fill out your credentials, know your customer. So if you have to give your passport, your identity, whatever, your name, your address, all of those things to verify you are who you say you are, that can all be tied to an NFT and then can be used to verify your identity in different places. Then there's already portals like that in Web 2, but it'll become more and more common in Web 3. And it's not about ceding control to anyone. It's about, this is who I am. You don't need... This little token right here tells you it is. For me to be able to get this token, I had to prove that I am who I am. You don't need to see any of these other documents. So what that means is it makes it less likely for your identity to be cloned and put into something else. So that's the good side of that side of Web3. So it's not a magic pill. That's the big thing to understand. It's not a magic pill. It's just a way of which that we can now transact and do business that's not in necessarily the centralized system. It's a map. It's a route for you to get out of captivity. And most of us don't even realize that we're still living in a cage. Most of us think that we are free. Most of us, there was a post the other day on Facebook, and I'll tell you what, it blew up. And it was about, it doesn't matter what it was about. But the point is, the comments that came through on, I made a comment on it, and my comment was about how people being able to have choice, right? That's all I said. I wouldn't label them that. I would label them pro-choice, is basically what I said. Well, there's been almost 700 interactions, engagements on that, likes, laughs, hearts, whatever, doesn't matter. Almost 700 interactions on that one comment, and there's over 100 other comments on it. And I actually went through and read them last night, which is something I don't necessarily recommend doing, but I did. And it's interesting, I would say 65-35 split for those who supported me and those who thought I was an idiot. And that's okay. And that's the beauty of what I spoke about before, about freedom of speech. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but it still astounds me that there's so many people trapped in that matrix that are happy being ignorant. And Cypher says a line in The Matrix, in the movie The Matrix. And if you remember, Cypher, I can't remember the actor's name, but he was in The Sopranos as well. He was also in Bad Boys for Life, or Bad Boys, the whole series. He was the captain. Anyway, I can't remember the actor's name, but he plays Cypher in The Matrix. And there is at one point where he's making a deal with the agents to plug himself back into the Matrix because he's sick of being out of it. And he picks up his steak, bit of steak, he's cut it because they've taken him to this nice steak dinner. He picks up the steak and he says, you know what? I know this steak isn't real. See you later, Stilo. Thanks, brother. Here, have fun with your grandies. So he picks up the steak, he goes, look, I know the steak isn't real. I know that there's no taste to it. Whatever, I can't remember, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but he goes, you know what I've learned? Ignorance is bliss. And there's still a lot of people in that space. And they will remain in that space. There's only going to be about 20% of the world's population that will ever wake up to this. And if you're there, if you're on that point right now, if you're thinking, man, there's something absolutely not right, I need to investigate further, then you are in the right place right now. And I congratulate you. If you need to know more about that, head over to drewsdaily.com, grab yourself the Sovereign Wealth Kit or the DeFi checklist, message me on WhatsApp and we can have a chat. But it literally is, Web3 is literally a map out of captivity. No one's coming to save you. No one's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. And if you're not saving yourself, you're dying. Under the thumb of someone else. With the guise of freedom. Oh, yes, you can do that, but not today. Oh, yes, you can go there, but not today. No, you can't have that steak because you've spent more of your carbon credits than you could have. Now, this isn't been about anti-bank or anti-government even for that point. They have their place. And if they actually did what they were designed to do, that'd be even better. But the fact is, you don't have control over that. I don't have control over that. We'd like to think that we do, but we don't. What we do have control over is the things that we do, the things that we say. Gary, see your comment there, mate. Hey, Sonia, how you doing? Good to see you there too. We have control over it, over the things we do and say right now. The only things that we have control over is the things that we can control, obviously. We can't control government, we can't control the banks, but we can control our choices that we make around that. And right now you still are free to. That window, I believe, is closing. This is absolutely about being pro-choice, and that ties in perfectly to the comment that I made on Facebook the other day. It is absolutely about being pro-choice in a system that only offers illusions, in a system that's designed for you to fail, in a system that's designed or rigged to keep certain people in power and to keep their power base strong. So if you've made it this far, you're already one of the few that in their gut know that something needs to change, that something needs to shift. You know the game is changing. You might be unsure of how it changes and what that looks like and what you can do about it. And that's why I invite you to head over to drewsdaily.com, register for the Sovereign Wealth Kit. We can have a talk. There'll be some other information that comes out to you that just helps you, guide you on that way. Again, not financial advice, just helps you, guide you on that way. But true decentralization puts the power back in your hands. And I'm absolutely for that. I'm absolutely an advocate for you being in control of your destiny, for you being in control of your financial future. However that looks for you, because it is different for everybody. It is completely different for everyone. And the more you understand, the more dangerous you become to the machine. Again, if you made it this far, then I invite you to connect. Come over to drewsdaily.com, grab the Sovereign Wealth Kit, download the DeFi checklist. There's no pitch there, it's just a little bit more clarity, a time for us or a chance for us to have a conversation and see whether there's something out there that is a fit for you. Not any form of financial advice, just a chat. Anyway, guys, it has been awesome to be here with you this morning in Tokyo. I always finish with this, always, always, always. You create everything. You create everything in your life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah, even the shit that goes on with the banks, you create that by your inaction. Okay, so we create everything in life. So if we're creating, why don't we just go and create something freaking amazing? Focus on the positives. Focus on the outcome that you want, because that makes the difference. 100% makes the difference. If you want to talk about that, then absolutely head over to drewsdaily.com. Reach out on WhatsApp. We can chat about it for sure. But we create everything, so you might as well go create something freaking amazing. I'll be back here again tomorrow around the same time. It's been great to be here with you. Great to be here with you guys on TikTok. Love yous, thank you. Facebook, thank you. YouTube, thank you. And we will see you tomorrow. He kōnei rā, goodbye. Ka kite anō. I will see you again.